So I was asked, who's the best hero for what faction, and who should I be focusing on? And that's a big question, so we have a pretty long and pretty big video. So sit back, relax, and I hope you all enjoy. And with that taken care of, let's start that intro. So welcome back everyone, this is 2 Point Shell, and we're going to dive in, and on the background we're going to kind of overview some heroes as we complete the heroic miracle. So obviously we're going to start in Shadow, and I think Tix might be one of the best heroes that we're going to look at. He's an awesome node breaker, he steals attacks, so he's awesome in Sealand, and I mean, he's one of the newest heroes, so it makes sense. Although if you're looking at PVE, you might say Ithagwa's one of the best heroes. Jumping over, you got someone like Sherlock, who can really lock people down for an entire game, and he's got amazing heals. And then you got someone like Penny, who can crit and nuke everyone in a single turn. You have Ignis, arguably one of the best healers. You got Delasium, who pairs amazing with anyone who throws dots down. Obviously, moving on, you have Rogan, who buffs everyone. Olivia kind of does the same, but in a different manner. And then you have Garuda, who can nuke and heal off of that. And then you got people like Carrie, who can energy drain and resurrect herself infinite amount of times. And then lastly, we have people in the light faction, such as Russell, who can basically do everything you want him to do. You got Belrain, who might be one of the best healers as well. So anyways, with all of that taken care of, now we can dive in and kind of discuss my thoughts while we do the events. So Tix, honestly, if you're building him, you can't go wrong. He has amazing attack steal. He can basically nuke, and with a Punisher staff, he can definitely help push you through Aspen Dungeon, which is very important in the game. Moving on, Ithaqua, she pairs amazing with Delasium, so we'll just kind of touch base on both of them. If you want to run PvE for your guild, you're going to want to run Ithaqua and double Delasium. So that's kind of that. Delasium pairs well, and you know, he touches base. Basically his job is copy. So he'll copy stat buffs, marks, stuff of that nature, debuffs. He's really good at that. And then lastly, I kind of want to touch base with Horus on the Shadow faction. He's needed for Sealand for the most part. For simple E5 Horus, I think can get you 15, 16, fairly easy, and if he's geared properly, 17 and 18 shouldn't be too bad either. Outside of that, everyone else is kind of food, so if you're looking along and you're like, well, what about Gustin? What about Kamath? So on and so forth. They're kind of useless for the most part. People do it better. Gustin is super cool, and I like him, although for the most part, he's not going to make or break your team. Moving on, Sherlock is one of my favorites, and I'll stand by it. His whole thing is he can lock people down, and he can swap health whenever he gets below 30%, which is huge. And again, if you're running that, you already know that he's amazing. He doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, but again, that's not his job. Comparing that to someone like Unimax, Unimax wants to get hit. Unimax wants to kind of take the center of attention, although Sherlock does it better. His CC is 10 times better, and he heals. Like, he's just a little bit all around better. Unimax's damage reduction is nice, but that doesn't swap a 70% heal, or up to 70% heal. And early game Penny, amazing. You know, if she crits, which again, you want to build her for crit, then she can nuke the whole team, and she can basically kill everyone early game one shot. So keep that in mind. Outside of that, you got people like Sigmund, who are pretty good, especially early game. Damage reduce, super tank. He can kind of maneuver PVE and PVP, but he's more of a PVE style player. And outside of that, you kind of got just regular heroes, random synergy. Flame Strike has some synergy, but again, not a ton. You've got Ormus, who can leave rescue marks, and he's amazing at healing. He's probably one of my favorite. It's either him or Ignis, but he lacks basically compared to those like Ignis and Belrain, so he's not amazing. Then you have the Abyss faction. Ignis, amazing. She can do a ton of support for you, and basically against the other team. And honestly, I kind of think she's amazing. Obviously, we already talked about Delacium pairing with Athaqua, so that is that. And I just realized I'm a little bit behind and the video kind of lacks. However, bear with me. We'll catch up. And then you have someone like Cthulhu, early game, amazing tank, and just like Horus, he's very good in Seal Land. But outside of that, you don't really see him that much, and that's about it. And then Cruz, kind of good for Guild War. That's about it. And then, like I said, in the Force faction, Rogan, he buffs everyone, and that's why he's useful. You can pair him with Athaqua, amazing, because again, she's an assassin. So it kind of goes back and forth a lot about team building, because if you don't have one piece, the other one doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So to jump over here real quick, Sigmund is pretty good, but if you don't have anyone to pair with that, you know, like a Phoenix or whatever, then his burn doesn't really do much. And if that's his job, is just armor reduction, then you better have some crazy nukes. If that makes sense. Because again, you can run double, triple Sherlock, but he's not going to do anything damage-wise. He might lengthen the fight forever, although if he gets shut down himself, or, you know, he's going up against multi-carry teams, he won't have the oomph to end everything. So keep that in mind. Moving on, you've got Garuda, probably one of the more popular, and everyone kind of knows her. She can nuke, and then she can heal a ton off of that, which is amazing. And then lastly, I kind of want to touch on Heartwatcher. She's needed if you're going to play any form of PvE, and she does help in the Delacium army, but she ramps things up for your whole team and does a 3 times damage multiplier. So that covers the main factions. Obviously, you've got people like Carrie, and you've got people like Belrain and Russell, although if you're early game, I say you shouldn't even focus on those guys. You should be focusing more on your Sherlocks, more on your Rogan. Garuda would probably be better. Again, you want those big damage dealers like Horus, Tix. And if you have to settle for someone who's a little bit lower, like a tier lower, like Unimax compared to Sherlock, that's okay, and definitely do that. But, you know, don't worry about focusing on the wrong heroes for too long. Again, this is kind of more of a general overview, and if you're looking at, you know, like Cruz, I think he's amazing. In Guild War, he could do amazing. In Interdimensional Arena, he could do a lot. But late game, he's not that important, so you shouldn't worry about him too much. Take him to 10 star, and then leave it. Kind of same thing with Cthulhu. He's pretty good in Aspen, and he can pair well with some other people. But if he's in the wrong team, then he's going to completely mess everything up, and it's not even worth it to have him. And then, you know, the argument kind of goes for a lot of people. Some people like Delacium aren't used in PvP, so again, it depends on where you're focusing. I personally, out of this faction, I love Ignis. She's amazing. I wish that I had the food to build her. Although, my next build is probably going to be Rogan, just because he's more useful, even than Flora. Flora is decent, but again, you need 2 or 3. And if you need 2 or 3 of one hero for them to be useful, they're not that worth it. And again, Rogan works well in pairs, but his job is to support the other heroes on my team or your team. So he increases attack, he increases crit, he increases speed, and he can give a little bit of a heal. And that's where I think he's better than someone like Olivia. Because Olivia, she increases attack and decreases the opponent's attack. That's cool and all, but if you don't have a nuke like Garuda, or you don't have someone to take care of that, then Olivia gets completely wasted. And again, like I said, Heart Watcher, for PvE, she's mandatory. She's probably the best hero, 10 out of 10. But again, in PvP, you're not going to see her that much. And she's amazing. She basically runs the game in PvE, but you gotta support her because she's super squishy. Her heal is not amazing, but I would still say everyone should focus on working on one of them. And that's basically my general overview. If you guys have specific questions for gearing, feel free to ask me down below. Discord would be a lot easier, which link is in description. But that also depends on the team. And a lot of people are like, hey, I built Russell, how should I build him? And again, it's like, you could build him this way, or you could build him this way, or you could build him that way. For example, you could build him AMB if it's upgraded, Augustus Magic Ball. Or you could build him Crown if you don't have one of those. And those two artifacts make him either tanky or hyper offensive. And that's just one example. And it depends on your team and it depends on what you have. Outside of that, I don't really want to touch on Light and Dark because if you're wondering early game, don't even worry about it. Just save up food. Although if you're kind of branching out and you're like, well, if I could pick one hero, from Dark I'd say Carrie, although she's kind of falling off. And then from Light, I would probably say Russell or Belrain. But again, Belrain can be replaced with Ignis. Kind of, again, they all have unique attributes. But again, Ada is amazing for Aspen Dungeon. She's pretty good in Tower as well, and the Void. So, Light and Dark, different beast for sure. But I hope that helped a little bit. And maybe we can dive a little bit into gearing, but also I don't want this to be a 20-minute video. So, I think for the most part, that covers the heroes themselves. I think that did a decent job. Again, we can always dive in a little bit more in detail and maybe explain some of the lesser known heroes. We could dive into Asmo or Gurk because I enjoy both of them as well. And, there's a ton for the normal factions. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know and I would love to do that. But anyways, guys, I think that is going to wrap up the video. So, again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned something. Again, don't rush, because if you rush someone like Tix, and that's all you have, you're going to be super squishy. So, team building is important, but I hope that helped maybe take you on a path for a next project, or see which copies you need to hoard up. But anyways, guys, you all have a good one, and I hope to see you all again. My name is 2 Point Joe. Peace.